Hey there, I am Christy Ruffino, former broke single mom turned CEO of 2 six-figure businesses and best-selling author with 15 books. But it wasn't always like this. Not long ago, I was a hot mess. Yes, I did a lot of things right, but mostly I was throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what would stick. Fast forward past many failed attempts and a few incredible victories, I not only get to share what I've learned along the way, I get to bring together top influencers as they share their empowering stories, insider secrets, and valuable resources that can be used right now to step into your power. So, if you're an ambitious entrepreneur, or possibly one in the making, and you're looking to create a business and life that lights you up, well, then you're in the right place. Well, hello and welcome to today's show, the Mastery Unleashed podcast. And I want to welcome you, whether it's your first time or you're an ongoing long-time listener. We cover a ton of content on this show. We focus on stories and strategies to fuel your success in either business and life or both. And today is one of those episodes where you are going to learn skills that will help you in your life and your business. Because today I have the pleasure of interviewing or having a conversation, I should say, with JOCELYN Vance. And I've known JOCELYN for a few years. I met her in the online business networking world, online networking. And I just loved JOCELYN from the minute I met her. She's got an amazing energy. She's got a really wonderful soul, and she is an expert in helping people really tap in to their personal identity and become more empowered by doing so. JOCELYN is a certified identity and success coach, an NLP practitioner, a timeline therapist, and hypnotherapist who works with purpose-driven individuals to be more conscious and empowered lovers, leaders, and life managers, as well as with their business and relationships. Her sole mission is to help awaken you to your true self and become a magnet to the intimacy, impact, and income you know are truly meant for you. And we had a fun conversation. I took about 2 pages of notes, and I know you are going to be enthralled by our conversation, where you can learn how to tap into your personal identity to become more powerful, more creative, more confident, have better connections, and a greater cash flow. So let's get on with the show, where I will introduce you firsthand to JOCELYN Vance. Well, hello, everybody. This is Christy, and welcome to today's episode of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. I am here with JOCELYN Vance. Welcome, JOCELYN.
I am so excited to be on here. Thank you so much for having me.
I am excited too. We've known each other for a while.
I know it
right?
seems like it's been forever ago, but just yesterday.
I know. And of course, we've never met in person. We've just met online, the online business dating
Yep.
process. And I don't even remember what community it was in, but I know we've kind of worked together a little bit here and there throughout the years. And I just love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Yes, I love it. It's been this kind of journey of transformation. I think when I first met you, it was like kind of one avenue, and then it's just slowly through my own growth and my own development, I just have switched and changed and evolved in my business and how I show up and help. And yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And you have a team now, right? You and your
Mm.
husband are a team in this business. I don't
Yes.
think you were at first when we first met.
No, I was not. He was still in corporate America. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely been a journey. COVID kind of changed all the things.
Yeah. For you and so many others.
Yes, yes. Yep, he
Um,
came home and that was all she wrote. So he kind of started getting in it, and we've been kind of a team ever since, but we still do very much, individual things as well.
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So, what we're going to be talking about is helping people really grab a hold of their personal identity so they can have the success that they want and they deserve. And as you just said, I like to start with people's stories and how they kind of got into the space, and you just said how you've evolved, which I think that's the story of most entrepreneurs. But can you share a little bit about what that evolution looked like for you?
Yeah, so I started out my career as a teacher and a nutrition teacher. So my natural involvement out of that and becoming like an entrepreneur was health and wellness. And so I have a nutrition certification. It just fit. And, as I was doing health and wellness coaching, I really started realizing there's a lot of the life piece that goes into that. So, I evolved in my own business and created success and kind of shifted into helping business owners have success online. But there was still this missing piece where I was like, as I was going through my own personal journey and growth and realizing, like, okay, I get it, like positive mindset and doing all the things to help me be quote unquote successful as far as strategy is concerned and as far as what I was doing. But I was missing the piece of who I was being, because we can do all the things, but it's not about what we do, it's who we're being when we do it. And
Hmm.
so I, in 2018, was like, there's got to be a missing piece. And as I was going through a shitstorm in my own life, I decided I was going to go out to Colorado for about 4 weeks. And I got my NLP practitioner, timeline and hypnotherapy, and really dove into how our subconscious mind actually plays roles in what we attract, what we see, our success, our level of being able to really step in and attract what we desire. And so after that, I kind of came back and my life fell apart. And everything kind of just started shifting and changing. And it brought me, to a space where what I do now, and that's really dive into the identity and the subconscious mind and work with, our identity and who we're being in the world and how that is ultimately attracting what we have in our life. And if we
Hmm.
want something different, we have to be something different. We have to become something different. And so now that's what I do. And I, work a lot around identity, personal identity, and then how that, transcends into relationships and building a successful business.
That's good. I think that is a lesson for a lot of entrepreneurs to embrace, or
Mm,
first to hear it, right? Because I think as an entrepreneur or a small business owner, doing is what we think we have to master in order to achieve our goals or our success, right? We've got to do this, or we've got to find people to do this. And
mhm.
we're just doing. But if we can't be the kind of person that is able to manage that success, we keep coming back to our comfort zone. We keep coming back to the like the hamster on the hamster wheel, instead of sitting back and just letting the success happen and being able to navigate it without a bunch of busy work.
Yeah, it's like we always, when we want change in our life, we say, well, what do I need to do differently?
Yes.
And it's not the right question. It's who do I need to be differently? And I always
Mhm.
say, like, you can't outperform your identity. So you can do all the things, but if your identity is not aligned with the doing, you will always go back to the default of who you are at a subconscious level. And that will be what is reflected back to you ultimately in every area of your life.
I love that quote. You can't outperform your identity. Is that your quote?
I'm pretty sure, but I've consumed so many things, like I can't say at
Right.
this point.
Oh, we'll put that in the notes, but I'll like Google it and make sure that it isn't somebody else. But I love that because that is so true. And honestly, that is why so many people that win big in in the lotto end up by spending all their money and going back to being poor, because their identity is that of the poor person, right? They're not their mind space, their head space is not that of somebody that is managing wealth. And in our business, there's just so much that is hinging on who we are and what we believe about our success more than the skills and the actions. It's all important, but without the mindset, the skills and action are just going to keep bringing you back down to where you are.
Yeah, you can't just be the things and not do anything and expect success, right? Or expect things. But I always say it's about, who you're being and then putting in aligned actions towards that of what you want to achieve as well. And when you put those two things together, that's when you actually start to attract and become a magnet for that.
Yeah.
But if you're missing one of those pieces, something's off, and then you're like, why can't I make this happen? Why isn't this working? I'm doing all the things, or, oh, I've changed and I'm different. But if you're still stuck in not doing aligned action, well, then, it's not going to really manifest either. So.
So true. All right. Well, hang tight. We're going to take a quick break because I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about some of these strategies that I know you want to share. So hang tight, Jocelyn, and everybody hold on. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. This is Christy and Jocelyn, and we're talking about personal identity and how we can be who we want without actually only relying on do. Like we have to have both of them. We just talked about that. But what I want to start out with is this is really cool. And I never really thought about this, but this is one of the questions that you gave me, because our soul identity and who we really are is different than our learned identity and who we're showing up as. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so like we all came onto this planet as a soul, when we first came here, and it comes with so many different things, right? That we ultimately feel deep inside. It's like that connected self that when you're in meditation, when you're in that dream state, when you're in that space where you just check out, you really can tap in, and our intuitive self, and really who we truly are, and what we're meant to be and who we're meant to be, and we feel those things. And I always say, like, when you see something in the world or you recognize something that you desire or that you want, like that's tapping into innately what's already within you. And so what kind of comes in to block us is what I call, a learned identity. And what that is all those things that we learned from the time we're born, and typically until about 8 years old, 9 years old is when a lot of it is created. It's an identity that we just consume, because in those ages, we don't have the part of our brain that can say, this is right for me, or this is wrong for me, or this aligns for me, or it doesn't align for me. And so we just become sponges to what we're taught, belief systems we have, patterns of behavior, the world that we experience, and then what we make that mean. And then, you obviously always have some of the traumas or wounds that happen that create who we are. And then from that time, you just operate from those belief systems, those patterns of behaviors, the habits that are created, and your world then becomes a reflection to that identity. And we stand strong in that truth. And I always talk about, there's 3 different truths that we really, have. We have universal truth, which is you need oxygen to breathe. Like, that's a truth. Like, everyone on the planet needs oxygen to breathe. Right? So that's a universal truth for everyone. And then you have those soul truths, which is what I was talking about before, which is like your intuition and, that space where you just have an inner knowing that is screaming at you that is true. I give an example sometimes where it's like, if your spouse is mad at you or something, and then you ask what's wrong, and they're like, no, nothing's wrong, I'm fine. And you're like, okay, yeah, right. Like, I can tell. It's like that knowing that you can't describe, but you just know it.
Yep.
And then the third truth is learned truths. And that's pretty much 95% of everything else that we truly believe to be true, or what we say about ourselves, or what we believe about the world, is learned. And it's learned through, many other people outside of ourselves. And we sometimes can lose who we truly are at a soul identity because we've taken on the subconscious programming of so many other people, things, experiences.
Yeah. I mean, because like you said earlier, as a child, we allow other people's truths to become our own, what they tell us, what we see, what we vision, the stories we tell ourselves about something, that becomes how we become shaped. But then sometimes we know down deep, that's not right, or that's not who we are, or that's not what I want in life. But it's funny how that piece becomes so small and the learned truth tends to take over. And then down the road, we kind of think, well, wait a minute, I'm not fulfilled. It's because our soul is not being fed.
Yeah, it's like the space. I can always pick out prime examples, right? But it's like, growing up, for example, it's like you're going to go to college and you're going to, get a degree, and you're going to work a full-time employee with that degree. Because if you don't get a college degree, then you can't be successful in life. And if you don't have the 401k and the retirement and all the things, and it's like this belief system that I had so ingrained that I didn't even like explore my entrepreneurial spirit until I was 30 years old almost.
Wow.
And yeah, and deeply, deeply exploring like who I truly was. And I had to like unveil a lot of things that were not true. And that's the same in relationships, and what we have learned on how to love and how to give love and how to show up. We find that we attract a lot of things that we were missing, or that we in our parents. We do that in partners. So it's just who we truly are almost gets pushed down so far that we forget who we truly are, and then we just live unconsciously based off of what we've learned. And a lot of times that's not actually who we truly are. So we just go through life and we don't realize why we're not seeing the success we want, why things aren't happening the way we want. But there's these blocks and limitations, which I call limiting structures in our subconscious identity, that is not aligned with what would be the identity of the person that gets what they want.
So what comes to me is that if you're listening, if somebody's listening and they just thought they're thinking to themselves, all right, well, I feel that there's something missing, or I feel that, I'm hitting walls in my life, or I'm hitting walls in my business, and I don't know why, because logically it should be working, but it's not. That could be a sign that there's some stuff that needs to be like uncovered. And we may think we're fine. We may think that there's nothing wrong because we've got our stuff together. But in reality, if things aren't going, if you're not in flow, right, in every aspect of your life, then that means that like that log jam has to be cleared out so you can get into flow. And how do we do that? Like, is that something that we can just do ourselves? Do we need somebody like you to help us? Like, how do we get in that place where we are being the person we are supposed to be, who we were created to be, to have this life of abundance?
Yeah. So I always say, like, to be in alignment is kind of what I call it. Like, I think of like an aligned with what you want. you have to start looking at, one, your thoughts, two, your feelings, which a lot of times our thoughts create our feelings, but sometimes we just have feelings that then start kind of a swirl of thoughts, right? But it's looking at your thoughts and then your feelings, and then the third piece is your actions. And when you have all those aligned with being the person that has what you're saying you desire, then you start becoming aligned with that. But there's this like time lapse. So I always say, like, the world's reflecting us, and what is happening to you, air quotes, is actually happening for you. And it's meant to show you what is going on, that it is this block or is this log. And if you see something that is continuously on a repeated pattern, it's definitely worth looking at and then asking yourself, where's my thoughts? Where's my feelings around this? And is it aligned with somebody that would have that? So if I think, okay, I want $1 million business, for example, and I don't have it, right? So I'm like, okay, how would I get in alignment with attracting that? Then I would have to ask myself, if I already had $1 million business, who would I be being different than who I am being now? That would be somebody that would already have $1 million business, because we can't ultimately have something until we are the person that has it. And we often think it's the opposite way. It's like, oh, once I have all the money, then I'll feel freedom, then I'll feel happiness, then I'll do this. But in reality, you have to be those things to be in alignment to attract it. So if I ask myself, okay, who is a woman who has $1 million business, for example, and I start listing out characteristics, what she does on a daily basis, what she believes. And then if I compare that to who I am being, am I in alignment? Are my thoughts in alignment with a woman that is making $1 million? Or am I thinking about lack and all the things I don't have, and how I'm not good enough, and how things aren't happening, and I'm not attracting the clients I want? Or, where is my thoughts? And then where's my feelings? If I were $1 million business owner, then would I be feeling crappy? Would I be feeling lacking? Would I be feeling like I don't have enough? Would I be feeling, gratitude? Would I be feeling free? And then what would my actions be? Am I showing up consistently? Am I doing the things that $1 million earner would be doing? Or am I allowing my thoughts to stop me? Am I not showing up consistent because I feel tired, or I feel burnout, or I feel not good enough, or I feel frustrated? It's really looking at the core of, like, where are my thoughts? What am I speaking into existence about who I am and how I am? And then, is that in alignment with someone that has what I'm saying I want? Because I would say 9 times out of 10, it's not.
So it's basically like you have to be the container for it to fit into. You can't put, a gallon of liquid in a 6-ounce cup, right? You've got to expand to have a gallon container. So in business or in life, how do we become, we're going to keep on the path of this $1 million female business owner. How do we become that container? How do we become that person in our mind and our belief system, so reality can catch up with us?
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like there's lots of different spaces for this, right? I mean, I am always an advocate of working with a coach or somebody that can really help you identify what in your identity is that thing that you can't see, right? Because it's like, we don't know what we don't know. We can only see from our own perspective, our own perceptions. Every one of us in our subconscious mind has filters, has patterns of behavior and habits, and all these things that are contributing to what we're seeing in our reality. So when we can hire somebody that can see beyond what we can see and can awaken those pieces in us, we take what could take 10 years of experience and put it down into 10 months or 10 weeks even, right? And so it's like just being able to awaken to the pieces of us that we can't see about who we're being that's contributing to that is a huge piece. And then the second piece is like I said, a lot of this is like subconscious. It's not something that, we are meaning to do, wanting to do. So we can consciously see something. But if our subconscious mind is not aligned with that, then it's always going to win. Our subconscious mind always wins. So if I, for example, I'm so confident in this, like I feel confident in myself. But if on a subconscious level, I don't feel worthy of something, then I'm going to ultimately attract a situation that proves I'm not worthy of it. Even if I'm like, I should have this, like I'm good enough to have $1 million business. I'm showing up every day and I'm doing the things and my expertise is amazing. But if on a subconscious level at age 5, I learned that when I took risks, I'll tell you a story. This just came to my mind. When I was really working through a block that I had, and it was like the whole block of getting out of my comfort zone. And I was like, I can get out of my comfort zone. I can do this. But subconsciously, I had a little bit different thing going on. So at age 3, which, so young, but at age 3, and I learned this in a timeline therapy session, actually, because I had no idea what the block was. And I was working, on my timeline therapy certifications. And I came to this like huge awakening for myself of I had constantly like wanted to stay in my comfort zone for safety. I wanted to stay in my comfort zone. But I felt like I am confident enough to get out of my comfort zone. So in this session, I realized at age 3, I climbed up on my dad's truck. And in the timeline therapy, I remember being 3 and like being brave and courageous. And I wanted to climb up there so bad because I saw my older cousins and my older friends in the neighborhood climbing up there. And so I climbed up on the truck, being brave, getting out of my comfort zone, doing the thing, and I fell off. And I fell off and hit my head. I still have this like little dent in my forehead from it. And I got 2 black eyes, a broken nose, and I ran inside and I immediately not only was hurting and crying, but my dad got onto me. Like I got in trouble big time for climbing up on the truck. So at that point in time, in my learned identity, I coined that when I am brave and go out of my comfort zone, I get hurt and I get in trouble. And from that point forward,
it shaped you.
Yeah. Every time that I would go to get out of my comfort zone or be quote unquote brave about something, that would be the experience that subconsciously stopped me. It's like, don't do that. You're going to get in trouble. Don't do that. You're going to get hurt. And when I realized this at 30 years old, I realized that I had repeated that pattern of behavior so many times that it had become who I was. And even though consciously I knew that I needed to get out of my comfort zone to be more successful and to do the scary things, my subconscious identity was like, nope, we're not doing that. Nope, that's not safe. Because our subconscious mind just always wants to keep us safe and in alignment with what we believe to be who we are. And so you're constantly kind of doing that kind of thing.
Well, that is so good. And this leads completely to the free gift that you want to share, because your masterclass sounds like it's going to be perfect for people that want to become in alignment. So can you share a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, my masterclass is all about you recognizing how who you're being in the world is ultimately going to be mirrored back to you. Through your experiences and what you're receiving from people, from opportunities, from the money you make, from your health. There's so many different places where you can apply. Like if you say that you want different than what you're seeing, then it's diving into what is residing in your subconscious identity that's actually attracting your reality versus the perceived reality that you're saying you desire, because we attract who we are.
Yep.
And
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. On some level, this masterclass is just walks you through that process of being able to really be able to see those missing links. And there's a little workbook with it that kind of dives you through some of those things so that you can, come to some more awareness, because the awakening part is the first part. It's like I said, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And then once you know it, you can't unsee it. But then it's like, okay, now that I've awakened to it, now I need to align with my soul identity, with my desires versus continuously being aligned with what I'm seeing reflected back to me that I don't really want. So that masterclass kind of walks you through and teaches you that process, and then gives you some tools to kind of start that process of awakening about yourself and how you're not actually attracting what you desire.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be able to share that great resource with our audience. And I want to thank you, Jocelyn, for being on the show today. This was great.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
And everybody that's listening, I know I learned a lot. I took a lot of notes. If you learned anything from today's interview with Jocelyn, I encourage you to share that with somebody you know, because the studies show that if we teach what we learn, we'll retain it more. Plus, you're helping them. I feel like a broken record when I share this at every episode, but it's so true. So I encourage you to share anything you learned. And of course, give us some love on our show. If you like today's episode and you like other episodes, take a moment to go to whatever platform you listen and either give us a review, rate us, do something so we can continue to get amazing guests like Jocelyn on for future interviews. So I want to thank you once again, Jocelyn. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Mastery Unleashed podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams by turning their mess into their greatest message and following their purpose to help the people who need their newfound wisdom and resources. To learn more, visit masteryunleashedpodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review to this show.